Words are about to be spoken on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, brought to you by the Ad Free Shows Podcast Heat and Wrestling According to Alba Networks. I'm John Alba. That's the broken one, the woken one, the spoken one himself, coming to us via satellite. Mr. Matt Hardy, what's up, man?
Just hanging out, man. I am coming to you via satellite from Kansas City. I'm in Kansas City, just hanging out. Doing some promotion for TNA. We're here next week on the 28th and the 29th. So myself and Brother Nero, we're doing live TV. We got on the 5 o'clock show live. We got on the 6 o'clock show live. We did the morning show live. They love us here in St. Joseph. They love us in Missouri. So just doing a big media tour for the events next weekend.
Not for nothing, man, but I think I've been on local news more than you have over the years.
You may have. You may have.
Those old Bangor, Maine days, baby. You got any fun Bangor stories? You definitely went up to Bangor quite a bit over the years.
My best Bangor story is this. So during myself and MVP, when we were in the height of our program, and we were also like hanging out, it was single mat, right? So we're doing stuff. Me and MVP had been out. It was someone's birthday, and we were both doing it up big. We'd partied real hard that night. We'd stayed up we'd stayed really late. We slept hardly any. We were in Bangor that next night, and we had been doing on the road Matt Hardy defending the U.S. title versus MVP, and that was our match, right? So we had our athletic contest where we'd bust our ass and we'd work really hard, and then we also had our entertainment value match where we worked real smart and did character stuff. So I remember telling him, like, dude, tonight we just got to do the entertainment match. Like, I know you're dead, I'm dead, and we'll just get through this and be done with it, right? And then we get to the building, and I go and I look at the list, and I go, lead on top again, like last match, Matt Hardy, U.S. champ versus, but it wasn't MVP. It said Chris Benoit. So I was like, holy shit. I have to go out here in this condition, feeling like shit, hungover, and I have to face Chris Benoit. This is going to be brutal. Because Chris Benoit did not gear down. He did not do an entertainment style match. He was go, go, go. He was in high gear from the lockup to the finish. That's my best Bangor match. My best Bangor match memory.
I have no doubt that you were quite the attraction to the fine ladies of Bangor, Maine. You know what I used to do when I started? Because I started my indie. Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say we were actually in Boston that night, just for what it's worth. We were in Boston, and we had made the drive up that day. Boston is where we were hanging out.
Gotcha.
Doing single match, single MVP stuff.
Gotcha. So I had I'd started my indie career in the Bangor, Maine area, Brewer, Maine specifically. Mm-hmm. And when you're first starting, you're just trying to find any way to get people to buy into what you're selling, right? And you'll get heat any way you can. And the way I used to do it when I first started, I'd come out and I'd start playing count the teeth with the people in the crowd, because there were plenty of mouths that were missing plenty of teeth. So I used to heat them up that way, and then they get so fired up. That's the one thing I love about some of these small towns. They get into it like it's the 80s and early 90s, man. Like, they are so into the heat of the show, and you don't see the quote unquote the smarter fan as much. They're much more within the world of the product that they're watching. And I think that probably, as a performer, I mean, you can attest, that probably lets you have a little more fun with it.
100%. I mean, that's best case scenario. We were in El Paso, and El Paso was that kind of audience. They didn't give a shit about internet websites. They didn't give a shit about like what the hot gossip was or what the rumor mill said about pro wrestling and pro wrestlers at that time. They were just there to watch pro wrestling and cheer the guys they liked and boo the guys they disliked. And God, that's best case scenario. Please give me that every single night of my life. It's my absolute fantasy.
Tell me a little bit about El Paso. You got into a little something with the Nemeth brothers, huh?
Yeah, it seems like there was a little premeditated swerve, a premeditated attack that happened there, going into this cage. I looked around at the very end. We won the match. We were celebrating. I got the pinfall for our team with a twist of hate on JDC. And then as we were all celebrating, we're doing that, hugs, high fives all the way around. We're happy. Yay, we won this war, this battle. and guys started going out of the ring. They were going up the aisle. They were slapping hands with fans, whatever else. And then I looked over and I noticed that Ryan Nemeth was in the cage and he was like messing with the door. He was doing something with the door. And I'm like, what is this guy doing? And I'm slowly starting to walk to him to like ask him like, what the hell are you doing, weirdo? And before I knew it, I got dropped by Nick Nemeth with his finishing move. And it was the silence that came over the crowd was like, boom, boom. And they threw beer cans in the ring. They were throwing popcorn in the ring. And then Nick Nemeth and Ryan Nemeth, they proceeded to beat the shit out of me. Ryan got on top of me and actually turned into like a real man for half a second and tried to beat the shit out of me and was pounding my face. And Nick was grinding me on the cage and beating me up. And thank God for my ice baths and my cold plunges, because my super recuperative powers have allowed me to heal. But yeah, I had a real bad black eye, had a slit on my nose, and I had a deviated septum, which that's nothing new. It's already been broke 6 times. What's one more?
Your condition was slightly broken, but not. The question is now, how broken are you? Because we know in 2025 TNA, broken Matt tends to weave in and out of reality. So,
oh yeah, I think there is a part of Matt that is broken in this, and I think you will see some broken Matt before too long.
Okay, all right.
Maybe you even see a Willow pop up. That's something Jeff's been wanting to do for a long time.
I have seen him mention that in a few interviews, that he would like to get that ball rolling. You've had a tenacious stretch the past couple of weeks. You have been going nonstop on the road. I mean, are you all right? Like how broken are you right now? I feel like you can't be in your skills has really deteriorated the last couple of weeks. I'd have to imagine.
They've deteriorated so badly. I was able to wrestle 4 intense matches in 5 days. Yeah, we had that. We had the toughest thing I think with all the travel was just the lack of sleep, because there was a lot of early mornings, and I felt bad that I was away from my kids and wife and family. So I'd try and get home and maximize those 10 or 12 hours with them, whatever I had. So it was rough, but it was there was a con all weekend, which was a great con, but I was home Monday for a few hours, and then Monday night into the city, and a little bit later, and then NXT was obviously all that day. We really enjoyed our match with Fraxium, had a hell of a time with those guys, and then on Thursday morning we were up at 4 a.m. catching a 6:30 a.m. flight to Austin, Texas. We did Fourth Rope, and it was a crazy show. It was a wild time because it was a South by Southwest, and I don't know if you've ever been to one of those.
Of course, I haven't been, but I'm familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you're familiar, but I've never been to one too. So it was kind of cool to go. I mean, they had all of downtown Austin, like the streets were all tarped off and blockaded off, and like people were everywhere. It's a big party, right? So they were doing all that. So the first venue that West Side Gun wanted to do, I think he didn't put down the money fast enough and he lost it, but they found another place. They almost had a big tent where they could just stuff 1,000, 1,100 people inside this tent, and they could just watch pro wrestling. So it was wild, man. It was a wild environment. There were no guardrails. We wrestled a couple young guys that were 20 and 24, if I'm not mistaken, called the New Guys, which is quite an appropriate name. They were both very new. They'd only been wrestling a year and 4 months. We were able to, create a little magic with those guys. They were very good, though. They sat back and listened and rolled with the punches. And then we got up the next morning bright and early at 7 a.m. and we were catching a flight to El Paso. We were in El Paso. Jeff was in that ladder match against Moose, and obviously went crazy out there. And then I was in the cage match with my team of Joe Hendry and Nick Nemeth, Leon Slater, and our partner Elijah. We won. And then the next night we ended up doing, because I wasn't technically cleared, it was unsanctioned. We main evented the show. There was a street fight with the Hardys versus the Colognes, and I went in there, black eye, broken nose, all messed up, and I got through that last day. So I could not get in a cold plunge fast enough. I can tell you that.
Glad to see that you're doing okay. You sound tired, but that's okay. That's to be expected in the extreme life of Matt Hardy when you got the Gaggle and the Queen and all of them. You just mentioned.
Then I do that too. I mean, as soon as I get home, like I'm home, she's, my wife just happened to come down with this flu. I know you said you had it recently. Apparently there's this killer flu going around, right? So she was sick. She's like, look, I'm sick. I need to sleep and get better. You take care of these people. And, the last night we were there, I didn't even sleep. We signed autographs from 10:30 to 3 o'clock in the morning. And then like our flight was at 6 a.m. sharp. By the time we got to the hotel, Jeff and I literally had time to pack our stuff up, shower, and we ate some of the Outback that Ross had got us for doing this, marathon signing. We went straight to the airport, and then we got stuck. We were delayed 3 hours in Atlanta. It was one of those days. You know how those days go. And then I get home. She's like, you take care of these people. Her famous words, these people. So it's me with the kids, and I'm just like, come on, guys. And I'm out there trying to play. I'm like a zombie. And they're just like, she's like, well, I want to go to bed early. I was like, trust me, I can't go to bed early enough. All I have to do is close my eyes and I'll go to sleep. So we got through it, though. I was able to get some sleep that next night and just surviving, man. I do it day by day, man. I enjoy. I look for the positives in every day. I find the positives, and I try and head that way to the positives.
How are these people doing?
These people are doing. They're all good, man. They're all getting big. They were all sad when I had to leave again to come out here and do some media and promotion. But I'm very excited to get back because I get to have a full 6 days with them, which is the most in a month. So it's gonna
there
be
you go. Okay, all right.
So I'm looking.
I dig that. Well, speaking of street fights, Cope and Mox had one on Dynamite, and you got a chance to see it.
I did.
It was pretty brutal. John Moxley had some nails sticking out of his back. And we see the patriarchy get involved with the match. Sans Christian, rather. And FTR seems to have a little bit of brouhaha with Cope. Reading the tea leaves, Matt. Seems like that Cope and Christian reunion could be on the horizon. What say you?
That bold prediction I made about Edge and Christian will team again in 2025 is going to become a reality. I think we've kind of seen the seeds planted for it as it is, but I'm pretty positive it's going to happen now, and I feel like it's one of the strong cards that AEW can play, and I don't blame them for doing it because I think Edge and Christian back together is going to be a tremendous move. I think it's going to be great for both of them, and I think people will be really excited to see them back together. There'll be a lot of nostalgia, but both those guys are still amazing and they can still perform their asses off. So it really is a shame that there was at one point where myself, Jeff, Edge, and Christian were all under the same roof at AEW and there was no kind of interaction between the four of us. That really was a shame.
Does that bother you that didn't happen?
No, it's just not smart that it didn't happen. It doesn't bother me per se, but I mean, it's something that should have happened. It would have just been, it would have been an instant great moment that would have sparked a lot of interest and talk.
Why do you think it didn't happen?
It didn't happen just because they had those guys in singles roles where those guys weren't together. And it's one of those things you would have had to make some sort of decision, find a way to put them together on the same side to make it happen. I think. I mean, in theory, I guess we could have found some kind of scenario where we had Cope out there as a good guy and Christian is a bad guy, and we could have been out just as we were, as as good guys as well, and we could have interacted in some capacity. But I think for there to be some sort of teaser that there's going to be a match, and or some sort of us teaming together or us interacting in some sort of match together, I think we would probably needed to change some of the current booking they had, and I don't think they were wanting to do that at the time.
3 Carolina guys.
Yes.
You got FTR, Cope. Seems like it makes a lot of sense to run that match at some point.
Yeah, it does. It's gonna be interesting. I don't know. What do you see playing out here? Let it play out.
Either Double or Nothing or All In would make a lot of sense. One of those two. I feel like to do that match. I do think there should be some burn to having Cope and Christian reunite, but it's gonna take a lot to get Christian back as a babyface too. It's going to take a lot to make that happen. He's one of the most hated heels on the show, so it's going to take a lot to actually get him on that side of the equation.
I think they're going to end up turning him faster than you expect.
It could happen. It very well could happen. Which is interesting because our episode this week, we're going to be talking about how there's a little bit of a missing piece in the WWF tag team scene during the WrestleMania 18 time period. But I do want to ask real quick here. You talked about these people before with Rebecca. John Cena cut a "You People" promo in his return after Elimination Chamber, his big epic heel turn. It was a pretty polarizing promo. I think a lot of people really liked what John did in terms of what he had to say and how he executed that. But there were definitely some polarizing thoughts on the direction that they chose to go. What were your thoughts on John's segment out there overseas and how all that came across?
I liked it. I think probably what I liked about it the most is the fact that he didn't change. And the explanation he gave for it is that people are asking, what are we going to get this new? What are we going to get this new? What's new? What's new? What are we going to get? What are we going to get? And he's like, you don't get anything. You don't get anything. He said, you get this. And keep in mind, like, I don't dress like you. You dress like me. And I dug that. Probably the only thing I would be critical of it all is just maybe if they would have kind of delved into why he chose to side with Rock like that. That'd have been the only thing I feel like I would have loved to have heard from him. But I dug it, man. I thought he did a real good job at just being a whiny, bitchy guy who like just felt like he'd been wronged, and he came off very unlikable while doing it, which is, I think, what you need out of John Cena.
Yeah, I think John's performance itself was very good, and he played his part well. Personally, I loathe "You People" promos. I think it's lazy and just very, well, here's how we're going to get the crowd to hate me. But it was the perfect crowd to do it in front of. John did a great job, and Cody did an awesome job afterwards, too. I wish that we got more answers up front as to why he turned with The Rock, and also it didn't feel like they really promoted the WrestleMania match itself between he and Cody, which is the impetus for all of this. And John chasing 17. They have a few more weeks of TV to do it, but that coming off such a big angle, I felt like that really should have been the precedence, and it wasn't really there. But I'm with you. John crushed it in terms of how he actually executed what they did. What would you like to see them do going forward here as we approach WrestleMania with it?
I mean, I love the way that John laid it out in such a really whiny way, where they really rolled out the red carpet for Cody to come out there and be the babyface, and he could be the tough guy, and he sounds like legit. And that's, John Cena is one of those guys, one of the best promos in the game. Like he is able to go out there and murder people, cut them off at their knees if he wishes to. And they went the complete opposite, where maybe he had this promo which seemed more common or boring or whatever, a lame excuse, as you're saying, you people, but it was enough. I feel like, especially the WWE audience, they look at it and they go like, why is John Cena doing this, man? We hate you. We loved you, but now you're this, and this sucks, and you're such a whiny little complaining bitch. Like, why are you doing this? And then Cody came out there and looked like a badass. His lines he delivered.
Cody did a great job.
He walked off like a badass. I mean, when you watch that back, you're like, wow, this is like, the updated top guy face of WWE showing the old guy why he is a badass, why there's a new sheriff in town, and it's Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, Cody did a great job. Cody was awesome. So I have no qualms whatsoever about him and how he's handled it. I think Cody is just oozing that he is the guy. So no issues on that front from me. Anything else you want to add?
No, I'm really excited to watch it play out. I'm just really excited to see what they end up doing to try and optimize and maximize the tension between these two individuals and build this match into as big as it can possibly be.
You could tell those European fans were hard as a rock, just getting a chance to boo John Cena. I mean, they were coming unglued. And if you want to be coming unglued while you're hard as a rock, well, then Blue Chew is your way to do so. It's pretty good, right?
That was great, yeah. Because if you're feeling broken with Blue Chew, you can get woken very quickly.
We're going to help you have better sex here on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy with Blue Chew. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. And starting now, Blue Chew is offering a combo so strong, it's going to knock your socks off and maybe your neighbor's socks off as well. You don't have to move towns with the amount of noise you'll be making. Matt, that's saying something because you live in the forest. So make of that what you will.
All right.
Here's how you're going to do it. Blue Chew Matt.
I do have to say an old thing. You know that old slogan says, if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, does it really fall? Well, I've got to ask you this. If something erects and there's someone there to see it and hear it and feel it, it erects very hard with Blue Chew.
Well, that's awesome because you're using Blue Chew Max. It has arrived. It combines the active ingredients of Viagra and Cialis into one chewable form. This combo acts fast, and yes, it even lasts. Guys, be ready when she needs it. Get your first month of Blue Chew free. Great sex is just a few clicks away. Sign up at BlueChew.com. Consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you're going to receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped directly to your door. And the best part, it's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Matt, you've been on the road for a week. Rebecca's been sick. I bet you can't wait for that opportunity to pop a Blue Chew and get down to business.
Just go to work, man. Is what I do. I go to work.
Well, you'll be going to work overtime when you pop one of those Blue Chew Maxes. You can do it. I can do it. Everyone out there can do it. Let's make it easier for you to do it. You're going to get harder. You're going to discover your options when you go to BlueChew.com. We got a special deal for our listeners. You try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use promo code HARDY. How appropriate. HARDY. Just pay $5 shipping. That's promo code HARDY. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and more important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the extreme life of Matt Hardy. Okay, man, we got an episode to do. Let's get down to business. Please, without further ado, hit us with that Matt Fact.
Matt Fact, Matt and Jeff deserve a shot at the NXT Tag Team title.
Calling your shot here, huh?
I am.
Just by nature of having beat Axiom in New York City, you feel like you deserve that?
Beating Axiom, yeah. I just feel like we were willing to put the TNA World Tag Team titles on the line against those guys, and we defended them, and we obviously beat them. So I feel like when you do the paperwork, when you do the math, I feel like we're definitely in line for a shot at those NXT Tag Team titles.
Trying to manifest this for WrestleMania weekend, maybe with that Stand and Deliver show.
Yeah, it can be whenever.
Okay.
It can be whenever. Sign me up. It can be NXT next Tuesday. We'll go
Could
nuts. It could be anything. Because so anything in the extreme life of the Hardys.
So much for that 6 days at home, if that's the case.
That's true.
There we go.
Maybe the following Tuesday.
That's fair. All right, man. Let's get down to business. We are talking WrestleMania 18, a period of time we haven't really spent a lot of time discussing on this podcast. This went down 23 years ago this past week. And it's a strange period of time in WWE. There's a lot of transition going on within the company. So let's rewind a little bit to the end of the Invasion, where things don't quite work out with the WCW stuff. They disband Team ECW and WCW, and WWE is heading full head on for the brand extension that's going to happen, where they're going to split Raw and SmackDown. That's going to happen the week of WrestleMania. What did you think of the state of the company coming out of all that? WCW firmly out of business. You guys are the lone ship in town, and the Invasion just really didn't work out.
I was glad to get back to kind of dropping the whole Invasion thing. I wasn't crazy about it. It was just, it felt so forced and manufactured because, every week on WWE TV, it was a WCW, ECW alliance match versus WWE. And I thought that got old pretty quick. If they could have waited around and got a legitimate show where it had been a WCW or, WCW, ECW alliance show, whatever. And it seemed like two different brands working against one another. That would have been, or working and having a rivalry with one another. That would have been something intriguing. I mean, I think the whole reason this NXT TNA relationship works so well is because they both have legitimate separate entities for shows. There's TNA Impact, and then you have the NXT show that's on every Tuesday. And whenever an NXT talent comes over, and maybe they do an angle or a story in TNA, or you have a TNA talent go over and do a story in NXT, it feels so much more legitimate. It feels so much more real. It feels so much more unpredictable. Just the whole alliance versus WWE at the time just felt so manufactured and just so fabricated. It just didn't feel natural at all. So I was glad that had ended. And I want to say, I think we're doing the whole rebirth of the NWO, right? Didn't we do that right before we got
that's going to come up in the lead up to this? Yes.
Yeah, in the lead up to this. And I remember thinking like that, this is going to be interesting to see what kind of take they play on this, what happens on all this. And I was hoping, it would be interesting in whatever it may be. Maybe they go a different direction with it or whatever, but we all know how it went now after talking about the match that is going to be happening at WrestleMania 18, which is Hogan versus The Rock.
Yeah. So there's a lot of change going on within the company. The NWO come in. You're going to get Rock Hogan. You're going to get Stone Cold versus Scott Hall. What do you think about the Click guys coming back? You always had a good relationship with them, but Hogan especially, that's your first time working with Hulk Hogan, and that's a really big thing. What do you remember it being like when Hogan came back for the first time?
I was intrigued. I mean, as a fan, I was intrigued at just what direction they were going to take it in. So I remember when Vince was doing the crazy promos, and I loved Psycho Vince. I always thought Psycho Vince was a fun watch. I'm gonna kill the company I created. I'm gonna inject it with poison. The NWO, like those.
It made no sense in storyline, but yes.
No, but it was just so great. It was so crazy, right? Just the way he was talking over the top. And no, it did not make sense in storyline in the big scheme of things. But long story short, I was really curious. I was happy to see Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. Like I said, those guys had always been really cool with us, and it was exciting just to be around Hulk Hogan because he's obviously a staple of our childhood. So just to get just for the fact that we get to work with him professionally on the same level was pretty cool.
Do you remember it being contentious at all with Hogan coming back in?
No. Was I? No.
Or no, not you specifically, but do you remember there being some contentiousness throughout the company at all?
Not really. Nothing.
I just asked because like those three are known as the ultimate politicers, right? So
sure,
they're coming in, and you've got Stone Cold Steve Austin, who's not exactly thrilled at the time. The Rock is a top guy. Kurt Angle's a top guy. Triple H is a top guy. They've elevated Chris Jericho to a top guy, and then you got Hogan, Hall, Nash, who are the most notorious politicers in wrestling history.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there very well probably was, but like we weren't running in those circles with those top guys. Like we weren't super close, and like we weren't privy to it.
Yeah. Also, at this time, there's a significant change of the guard with the tag team division, and this match that we're going to watch, it's strange because you can tell they're trying to hold on to the last bit of magic they got with the Hardys and Dudleys. But we know that by the end of this year, the Dudleys are going to be broken up. You guys are going to be broken up. And Edge and Christian have already broken up.
Yeah, I mean, they wanted to break us up earlier, too.
Yeah.
And we fought this thing together. They couldn't break us up soon enough, really.
So WWE is scrambling, trying to build more tag teams. And the team that comes out of all of that is Billy and Chuck. Billy Gunn, Chuck Palumbo. And they're given a homoerotic gimmick managed by Rico Constantino.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty controversial duo, especially in hindsight, but there's no doubt that they were very entertaining and they went all in on the bit. What can you tell us about Billy and Chuck and their early days as they started to come into their own here and eventually capture the tag team championship?
Well, I mean, you got to think about that 23 years ago being quite a while back. I mean, it was much more controversial then than it would be now, obviously. So I do know that they were Billy more than Chuck. I mean, Chuck was like a newer talent. Billy had been around for a while. He was more of a vet then, right? Billy was very hands-on and wanted to like make sure they were comfortable with everything they was doing. I do know that. And I think they had explained to them kind of how they thought this bit was going to play out. So they both felt okay doing it. And I think they both felt okay fully committing to the bit.
What did you think of the pairing?
I thought it was interesting. I mean, I thought Chuck Palumbo had some true talent. I thought he had a lot of upside, especially when he did stuff with like Sean O'Hare. I thought those two could have been something really good together. They were still trying to adapt to the WWE style, and putting Chuck Palumbo with Billy Gunn, it was a great fix because Billy is going to be working with them day in and day out and helping him adapt to what the WWE style is and what they really expect and prefer from their talent, as a WWE wrestler. So that was a good move. And it was just, I was probably unsure of it. Like, was this going to work? Is this too much? Are they pushing the envelope too much? Is it too offensive? Or like, what are we doing here for sure? But it was something that generated a lot of buzz, especially after it went on for a little while, and then they cut it pretty rapidly when it ended. But like once they got into the heat of it and people kind of understood what they were doing, it did generate a lot of buzz.
What about Rico? Rico is someone who was in OVW in that whole Cena, Batista, Orton class. And a lot of people thought he was going to be the big time star to come out of it. And unfortunately for him, that was not the case. But he did have this run as the manager. What did you think of working with Rico?
Rico was great. He'd always been great. Super nice guy, super humble. And it's funny, I just seen him recently and he still looks almost the same, which is wild. He still looks really good because he's done the stuff with the models, right? And AEW. I liked Rico. I liked his attitude. I liked he was very flamboyant. He wasn't afraid to lean into the bit. And I thought he played his role very well for what he was supposed to be doing.
So the tag team division's kind of in a weird spot with Edge and Christian gone. There's no nucleus anymore. You guys, the three teams, were the nucleus of the tag division, and you can't go back to the well with it. Too Cool's gone at this point. The well has dried up slightly. How do you remember feeling at the time, heading into spring of 2002, about your place as tag team wrestlers? Did you guys see the writing on the wall that maybe you weren't left for long either?
I think we knew that because especially a little later on, Vince had made up his mind that Edge was going to be the standout of Edge and Christian, that Jeff was going to be the standout of Jeff and Matt, and Christian and Matt, they'll do fine, whatever. And I remember during that summer, I was pushing really hard to just get an opportunity. I was just like, let me do my own thing. I said, if you need me to turn heel, I'll turn heel. I would love to go to SmackDown. I just want an opportunity to do my own thing because Jeff and the whole Hardy Boyz team, the whole Team Extreme, the Adrenaline Junkies, Fear's only a 4-letter word, the Daredevils. I mean, that much more epitomizes Jeff than it epitomizes me. I said, I want to get into something that I thrive at, which I feel like is playing a character that's a little larger than life, over the top, delusional. That's where I feel like I really thrive. So that is kind of what I wanted to get into. And fortunately, towards the end of that year, he gave me the opportunity to do that.
You're very adaptable, Matt Hardy. There's a lot of different things that you can dress them up in different ways, and Matt Hardy's going to perform for you. And that's kind of been your calling card over the years. And I know that one of your best forms, Matt Hardy, is when you're dressed up in your chubbies, because Chubbies has got Matt Hardy looking real good this spring, especially with the madness of March. You see, March Madness is finally here. It actually, as we tape this, the first four is underway, and we're going to tip things off, I should say, on Thursday. And you know what that means, Matt Hardy. That means there's buzzer beaters. There's high-stakes hoops, and watching everyone's bracket predictions completely implode. So it's time for a lot of excitement. It's time for a lot of unpredictability. And it's a time where legends are forged, which means, in other words, it's time to wear Chubbies. Chubbies has mastered the art of stylish casual wear that doesn't skimp out on performance or durability, whether it's their bright and stretchy polos, their iconic thigh-exposing shorts, or their one-of-a-kind swim trunks, also known as the perfect threads to wear as you helplessly watch all of your bracket predictions absolutely implode. Maybe you're watching your games with your friends. Maybe you're watching games with these people. Chubby's original shorts give you that classic feel with a modern look. Hitting the gym to make up for all that pizza and wings yet? Well, Chubby's ultimate training shorts are built to sweat in with advanced fitness features. You could keep going, but we only got this ad slot for so long. All in all, You deserve a wardrobe upgrade for springtime and beyond. So to sweeten the deal for a limited time, Chubbies is giving our listeners 20% off their order with our exclusive code Matt Hardy at chubbiesshorts.com. Matt, last year, Chubbies gave you and I some samples of their products, and I almost outstretched the shorts because of how much I wore them. They were so damn comfortable. What do you enjoy from Chubbies?
They are the most comfortable, and I pack it with me. I've got it in there, and there's a hot tub here, and I'm looking to get in it once again to continue my body healing therapy over these next days. Water is very therapeutic, and the best way to get in water is wearing your Chubbies because they're comfortable, and you look great on top of everything.
So you're like in the classic line swim collection. Without hyperbole, it's the absolute top of the men's swimwear game, whether you're squeezing out as many beach days as possible before winter, or swimming laps at the gym, or doing your cold plungers, or going to the pool. Our ultra vibrant trunks that you can find at Chubbies are built with a quick drying 4-way stretch fabric that are the best damn swim trunks humankind has ever created. So whether you're getting dressed for your workday, a workout, or weekday getaway, there's a Chubbies for that. For a limited time, Chubbies is giving our listeners 20% off your order with our code Matt Hardy at chubbiesshorts.com. That's code Matt Hardy at chubbiesshorts.com. Support the extreme life of Matt Hardy. Tell them we sent you. Be your own Cinderella story this March with Chubbies. All right, Matt, this is a 4 corners tag team match for the WWF Tag Team Championship here at WrestleMania 18. We are at the Sky Dome in Toronto, historic venue in its own right. We'll talk about the show still, because I definitely want to get your thoughts on some of the big matches from this card. But Billy and Chuck are making their entrance to the ring. We got a live performance from Saliva for the Dudley Boyz, and we are ready to rock and roll here. Whether you're watching on Peacock or Netflix, Billy and Chuck are about to enter the ring. You ready to do this, Matt?
Let's do it.
Let's do it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So I have not watched this match since it aired, quite frankly. And
the last time I saw this match was like partial clips when I put together a says the net video a couple years ago. So I haven't watched the whole thing in its totality in quite a while either.
Okay. So we got the APA jumping Billy and Chuck here to start the match. This would be, if I'm not mistaken, the APA's final WrestleMania match together.
Oh, that actually sounds right. Yeah. How wild does Bradshaw look with that long hair?
I know, but say what you want. I loved this version of Bradshaw. I thought he was so badass.
Yeah, no, I did too. He was good.
It's actually kind of surprising Vince never ran with him in this form as a singles guy at a high level.
Yeah, I think once again, I think Vince just felt like he needed to, repackage him in some capacity. And Vince was absolutely in love with the JBL character. Obviously you can tell that by looking at the push and the opportunities he got. And on top of that, he did really well also.
Yeah, because there was a lot of Vince in the JBL character. Yeah. So that probably factored a little bit here. This is a 4 corners match, so all the teams have to be eliminated.
Yes, it is an elimination match for sure.
You remember anything about putting this match together here?
I remember that we felt like it was a much more simple day at WrestleMania compared to the last couple, because the year before this obviously was the TLC 2 match, and the year before that was the Triangle Ladder match, and those were really stressful matches that we had to put a lot of thought and effort into. So this one just seemed like it was a little easier. It kind of seemed like WrestleMania 18 was a day off compared to the last 2 WrestleManias.
Do you like that, or were you guys a little disappointed?
We probably wanted a bigger match. I would say we wanted a bigger spotlight, but we were also just very happy to be on WrestleMania and getting a WrestleMania payday too.
Of course. And playing in front of this crowd. I mean, what do you remember about Toronto that night?
I mean, they were great. That whole week was a really great, fun week. Like, we had such a great time, and all of the access scenarios in Toronto just was like so excited and enthusiastic and fired up about having Mania in their town. So yeah, it was a great week, and this crowd was amazing too. It was huge, and just such a, once again, another opportunity to go out and perform in front of a huge stadium full of people. And we're blessed to get moments like that in our careers.
If I'm not mistaken, this is me going off the top of my head, but this is your last WrestleMania match with Jeff as a tag team until you return to WWE in 2017.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
which is
is
pretty
correct.
wild.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the one part that weirds me out about matches like this. Like Chuck making the tag to the Dudley Boyz is very odd to me, and how all that stuff works. But it's kind of the nature of the beast, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it is just to keep the match from becoming super repetitive. I think you have to try and freshen up a little bit, but it's also very important that you are creative as possible whenever you're trying to get into these scenarios. That there's a blind tag, or a guy's just wanting to get into the ring, and that's why he tagged someone else. I feel like you have to be very smart about the way you utilize tags without being.
Well, the APA have been eliminated via 3D.
There you go. Bubba with a big backdrop.
Back to the Dudleys and the Hardys, just like the good old days.
Brother Devon, look at that double. We're still kicking that one.
Referee Nick Patrick.
That is funny though. I can tell you, I dropped that with my left fist, which I hated doing. I always try to do it from the right side.
So I was gonna say you kind of missed there. It seemed like you were uncomfortable with that.
I'm not sure. I'm sure I was close or whatever. I don't know about missing, but I hate dropping it with the left side. It was very awkward. Oof.
Jesus Christ, the two of you taking out the Dudleys. To the outside here. Got to have a table at WrestleMania.
You can also tell just by the pace and like all the movement of how everybody was in. Like we were trying to get a lot of stuff in a limited amount of time because this pace is very frantic.
A little whisper in the wind with all those flash bulbs going off.
I think still looking back at this day, Jeff says it now. He says, "Oh man, I take for granted how easy that was to do then." Yeah, at that age.
All right, we got Stacy Keibler, the Duchess of Dudleyville at the time, and
Jeff's Pella shit.
This doesn't age great.
Well, there you have it.
Who would come up with a spot like that?
Welcome to it. Certainly not Jeff. That's the last thing Jeff would ever do in his mind. So it's something he was asked to do, obviously. I don't know whose spot that was. Whoever our producer was.
Yeah. Doomsday Device.
Little Doomsday Device, indeed. That was very much that deal with slapping Stacy on the ass and kissing her and shoving her off. Very much an Attitude Era thing.
That's for sure. I mean, listen, I actually didn't hate Stacy as part of the Dudley trio. The Duchess of Dudley.
She added a lot to the Dudleys. She really did. And also, I think for some of those people who may not have liked them or whatever, I feel like there were a lot of fans that got excited that just, oh shit, Stacy Keibler's going to be out here because they just wanted to look at Stacy. They wanted to look at hot chick.
I mean, look, Stacy was a sex symbol at that time, very legitimately. I mean, she crossed over. She dated George Clooney.
Yeah, that was after this, though, right?
That was after this, correct?
Yeah, that was way after this, but yeah, she complimented the Dudleys, and she was very beneficial being with the Dudleys.
Yeah, I like Stacy a lot. Up and over. This is the beat the shit out of Brother Nero part of the match.
There you have it.
It's just kind of weird because like you can't build to a traditional hot tag when you have other teams involved in this elimination format. It throws a wrench in the playbook of a classic tag team match, I feel like.
Well, I mean, that's what's so different about it. It is always complicated because it's not your standard match, but you just have to figure out ways to try and be creative and circumvent, whatever the scenario is. So I would guess, and I don't remember, I feel like I do remember some of the clips. Probably if I'm making the hot tag here, not only do I get in the Dudleys, I probably try and get on Billy and Chuck as well too. That would be my guess. I guess we'll see here shortly. That was
Back
interesting.
into, yeah, back into a little more heat here from Devon.
With a blonde tag, I'm a big fan of a good, solid blonde tag if it's placed in the right area.
Did you like working with Nick Patrick?
Yeah, Nick Patrick was fine. He was super easy. Very much an old school brother.
Never slow counted any of your pins like you did the biggest match in wrestling history?
No, he didn't. He didn't slow count us.
That's good.
I guess we were okay with him. It's
You
so funny too.
Ugh.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah. I was just gonna say too, it's so funny how this is WrestleMania and it's the time of the year where everyone like works on their tan, like natural and probably spray tan, whatever, and Jeff's so pale.
I mean,
you can tell
Jeff's pale as a ghost.
He is. This is like starting to be around the time that Jeff is starting to check out and just kind of get burned out on everything with pro wrestling. So you can, it almost shows just because he didn't give a shit to, even get tanned up.
Jeff's pale as a ghost and Billy and Chuck are red as a tomato.
Yeah. Very, very good. Very good in tan and red.
Here you come.
There we go. You got to make that save sometimes. You got to sacrifice it for your partner.
Can he make the tag? It's so weird. Like they're calling for the hot tag, but like Billy and Chuck are just like there. Like, there's no true incentive for Billy and Chuck to actually get in the match here.
No, there isn't. There is no incentive for them to get in the match. I mean, especially with them as champions, they want one of us to be eliminated, and they can try and pick the bones with the other team.
Right.
I mean, from a psychology standpoint, they should try and be in there as little as possible because as long as they don't get pinned, they're surviving.
It's essentially turning into a Hardy's versus Dudley's match.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is right now for sure.
And it's almost like, why'd you have the APA out there in the first place?
Want to get everybody on the show, brother. They felt like everybody worked hard. Everybody was deserving of a spot.
Yeah, that payday. I think this might have been Ron's last WrestleMania too.
It very well may have been.
Look at this.
Sounds right.
Okay.
Look at that.
Here we go.
Some wild reversals there.
Matt Hardy wants in.
Look at that.
Yeah, to Billy and Chuck's credit, man, neither of them are like calling for a tag here.
Yeah. Let me go. Let's see what we got here. Look at Bubba bumping and feeding.
Is that an anomaly?
It was quite often. It was Mania, I guess, brother. Oh, there we go. There we go. So we got a little bit of the babyface trying to take out all the heels. Oh, please!
No water in the pool.
I want someone to document where Bubba's ever hit that.
Nice middle rope leg drop there. All those cameras going off to see Matt Hardy take that. Yeah, listen, if any of you were at that event and you can find these pictures, tweet them at us because I think that would be so cool to see these pictures all those years later.
Yeah, for sure. What's up?
WrestleMania, brother. You got to play the greatest hits.
Yeah.
Kevin Dunn not ready for that switch there.
Oh, there we go.
And it's WrestleMania. Oh my God. You see how many flash bulbs went off of the Swanton? Holy shit.
There we go. All right. Hardy's versus Billy and Chuck.
Did Chuck adapt to the WWE style of wrestling well?
He did. It took a while. I remember, I mean, when all those guys came in from WCW, him, Sean O'Hare, they were very frustrated because, like there's a certain way they want you to do things in WWE. Unless you have your own style, almost like Jeff and I, and you kind of start getting it over, then it kind of becomes acceptable with WWE. But they just had that WCW stain on them is kind of how, I think Vince thought, WCW is just bad. These guys are just, they have these WCW blemishes, these stains. We have to get them off in WWE, these guys. So they did. And they eventually adapted, and they kind of rolled with the program.
Was a gimmick like this a way for Vince to try to get some more personality out of Chuck?
Probably. I mean, he was probably trying to get as much as he possibly could out of him. And I think he knew Billy was a faithful employee that would really go above and beyond to try and get something over. He would work as hard as he could to try and make it work.
And we've really turned up to 10 here. Another swanton from Jeff. He hits it.
Another swanton.
The referee's checking on you for some reason.
Oh, and then I freed him up. Yeah,
Oh,
I don't know why. The ref must have noticed I had something in my eye.
I mean, also, it's Nick Patrick, so he just arbitrarily could have chosen to throw the match off course.
There you have it.
Oh, boy. Back turned again. Championship belt to the face. Some Brother Nero, and what do you know? Billy and Chuck steal the pin.
One thing I do remember is that they really wanted a good showing out of Jeff and I in this match. Even talking about this finish, because I remember they were real adamant they wanted a couple of major false finishes, and they wanted us to, get over with a twist of fate swanton on the Dudleys, beat them clean with our finish, and like in that finish, we were very protected in that match, so they took pretty good care of us in there.
What do you think of the match watching it back for the first time after all these years?
It was solid. I mean, it was a solid match. It was kind of chaotic, especially in the beginning, but I feel like with 4 teams and you have to do those eliminations pretty quickly, and knowing we probably didn't have as much time as we would have liked to have had, it kind of had to be chaotic, I guess. Yeah. It was fun. It was a fun match.
If I may, I never felt like it got to the level of being a WrestleMania match. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, but also too, like, you still, like, with a match like this, with the parameters and the stuff we had to work with, I don't know how WrestleMania that match was going to get to either.
You guys had also set the bar so high the previous 2 years, so that's something hard to overcome. The match that does steal the go ahead.
That's what I was saying. And I mean, looking back in hindsight, this match was just, it seemed like, like, oh wow, we're not super busy and we're not in this big spot. There's not as much pressure. It's more of a regular night at the office, but there's 4 teams and it's a 4-way elimination, which is kind of a tricky match to do.
The match that does steal the show that night, of course, is Hogan Rock.
Yep.
This is one of the most iconic matches in WrestleMania history. You had your match already. Did you go out to the audience to see that? What was the reaction from the boys like?
Yeah, there were a few of us that there was one corridor that was open that we could get out to, and there was a curtain, and there was another curtain over that, and a few of us went and stood out there and like listened to the crowd live out in the arena, and we were able to see the match there and on the screen, and just feel the energy of the crowd, and it was off the charts, man. It was off the charts, incredible.
Yeah. And that's what this show's remembered for more than anything else. It's a strange WrestleMania.
It stole the show. I mean but that, once again, people can say whatever they want when it comes to like crowd reactions and that crowd being serviced and the match being memorable. It was a 5-star match. I mean, when you're in the business of pro wrestling, that was a 5-star match. That's what we all dream of having.
Hurricane that night won the hardcore title for a second, and then Mighty Molly hit him over the head with a frying pan. I asked him recently if he's recovered from that, and he said it took some time.
It couldn't have happened to a better
guy. Christian won it too that night, so that was a pretty chaotic night. But yeah. I mean, that's WrestleMania 18. It's a pretty unremarkable WrestleMania, not a bad one, but highlighted obviously by the Rock Hogan match, and unfortunately Triple H's championship win over Chris Jericho is kind of overshadowed by it too. That's
I remember Chris was so nervous about going on last after those guys. he knew it was going to be an issue, whatever. And I think I felt like they just wanted that title match to be there, and they wanted, Hunter to get them up, whatever. But Chris was really, he would have really liked to have been on before the match, because he knew there was going to be such a incredible synergy in that Rock Hogan match. And even if they went out and the moves weren't great or whatever else, that he knew there was going to be just a once in a lifetime synergy with those two guys stepping into the ring at WrestleMania.
Yeah, and it gets overshadowed. It absolutely did. Chris was on the money with that. But Scott Hall did take one of the best Stone Cold Stunners of all time in that show. So take that for what it's worth. And
was it a Stone Cold versus Scott Hall match? Is that right?
Yes, Stone Cold versus Scott Hall. And
yeah,
that was kind of laying the groundwork for Austin's departure, because he did not want that to be the match, and didn't work for him, brother. So that was, it's crazy. We never got Austin Hogan, which just seemed like such a layup, and we never got it. So
it would have been.
They went with The Rock, which you can't say it was the wrong decision given how that match played out, but we'll see. Maybe years down the line, we'll look at that as an all-time miss. Who's to say? Anything else you want to add about this show, Matt?
No, I just remember we had a great week in Toronto, and it was a really enthusiastic Mania, and those Mania weeks are always special. So it was fun. It was good. And once again, just anytime you get the opportunity to be on a WrestleMania, you've made it. You've done something very special.
Certainly so. Well, this podcast has been fun as well. We want you to have fun with us. Head on over to advertisewithhardy.com. Get your business out in front of thousands of listeners every single week. Promote it to the extreme. That's advertisewithhardy.com. I'm glad that you're headed home. Going to get to spend some time with those people. You'll be able to rest and recover. Anything you'd like to say to the diehardies out there?
Just once again, thank you for supporting Jeff and I on this journey. It's been 33 years. October 15th, it'll be year number 34. So we're having a good time, and I hope you're having a good time, and just keep having our back. We greatly appreciate it, and I promise you, we're both working hard and busting our ass to make you proud, to put smiles on faces and happiness in homes.
And asses in seats. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. The words have been spoken. We'll see you next time right here on The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy.
Delete!
As an adult, don't we all miss spring break? Nothing like taking a week off from all your responsibilities. Well, here's the next best thing for adults: a spring break from house payments. SaveWithConrad.com can help you get rid of all your credit card debt, just like that. We're routinely helping our listeners save $500, $600, $700, even $800 a month. And you don't need perfect credit or money out of your pocket to do this, but check this out: no house payments for 2 months at SaveWithConrad.com. NMLS number 2129, Equal Housing Lender. SaveWithConrad.com.